Welcome back to Rich Words Music, where today I'm joined by a very special guest indeed. He's an outstanding musician, an almost as good skateboarder, and he's one part of the very well-known Thomann video team. So he's an interviewer to the stars, tester of some of the greatest gear in the world, and his name is Guillaume. Guillaume Chenin, welcome to Rich Words Music.
Oh, you lost me at skateboard, man. Thank you. Thank you so much for that introduction. That was beautiful.
Sorry, that was off the cuff as well. That was just spontaneous.
That was incredible. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm really pleased to have you on because I've already had Kris.
Yep.
When I started this little YouTube channel of mine, I did a video with Andy Ferris, the guitar geek, who you also know very well, and we talked about his signature or semi-signature Harley Benton DC Junior guitar. After that, I put out a word for people on the channel and I said, who do you guys want me to talk to in future? And the number one choice was Kris for some reason, and second was you. So it's like, okay, the Thomann boys are in demand.
Oh, man. I mean, second is first in my book because Kris doesn't count. It's Kris. You don't touch Kris. Kris is right up there. But I'm really flattered. Thank you. I'll do my best to deliver, considering I've seen both interviews and both were great. So I'll try to... I'll do my best. No promises.
That's very kind of you. So let's kick it right off then, and let's go back to little Guillaume, when you were a young man growing up in France. Yes. How did you first get into music and the guitar?
Music was my parents, definitely. My dad only owned one record at the time, and that was Pink Floyd The Wall. And that has played in the house every single day from year 1 to year 18, non-stop. The rest of it is on me. And my mom equally, and my dad was very specific about that, but my mom was always had the radio going, and she was always more of the, a little bit of Queen, a little bit of ABBA. Then sometimes we'd walk in the house and there'd be Metallica for no reason, but she was like, that's cool. Yeah, it is. And so, yeah, music, definitely my parents. Guitar, that's on me, I think, because I have some distant cousins that are musicians and some of them play guitar. But within the close, family circle thing, I'm the only musician. And I think, I want to say Clapton, because when we started burning CDs, when that was a thing, my uncle had a computer, we didn't have, but he started burning some CDs for us. And I think among the first CDs that we got from him was the Unplugged MTV session from Clapton, and I remember he printed the actual album cover to just slide it in that glass blank CD thing, and that album was also very much played inside the house, and that's the first time that I was confronted with someone holding the guitar on an album cover. And yeah, I think that was that. There's a cool picture though. I'll see if I can find it so I can send it to you. But I actually got my first guitar when I was 3, so way before I was conscious of any of it. But yeah, to some extent probably because of that first guitar, toy guitar, or 1/8, or I don't remember. It's still at my grandparents' place, and Clapton, and then going on, I don't know, I was 7 or 8 at the time, and then that was middle school, and then people start talking about music at school because that's about the age, and yeah, I would say that's pretty much the origin story for it.
What was your first kind of real guitar?
It was a half-sized Yamaha acoustic classical guitar. The one everyone has, the C1 or C4 or whatever. I can't remember the name, but that was the first real guitar, and I was 7, I think. And I was really mad at my parents because we just moved, and I didn't want to move. I loved the place where we were, and all my friends were there. I didn't want to move. Pretty pissed, and as a I think that was part of the reason why my parents conceded to. Okay, yeah, here's a guitar though. You can finally learn guitar, because I'd be talking about it quite a bit. But that was the first one, and I took 6 months of lessons along with that. But I absolutely hated the guitar teacher. It was probably very good. It wasn't a good fit. I wanted to learn that Clapton record. I bring in the record with me. I didn't even know how to hold the thing, but I wanted to play that, and he insisted on me, figuring out the fretboard and doing all sorts of useful stuff I didn't like. So we ended up parting ways after 6 months of lessons, and that kind of hurt my love for guitar for a few years. I think then I stopped playing from year 8 to like 10 or 11 just because of that, because I thought guitar was boring all of a sudden.
It's funny, like, how many people I know, like, I'm the same. Like, we had guitar lessons when we were younger, and you have like a perception of what you want to learn, or you have a record or a guitarist that you really want to emulate, and then you get into the first lesson and they just want to teach you boring scales or something. And it's if you don't want to learn what they want to teach you, then it's never going to work, is it? And yet that seems to happen so often.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, it was also age related, right? I was, again, 7, I think, when that happened. And I mean, you've seen the patience of a 7-year-old. So it's not... I was a lot more focused on that when I picked it back up, because I wanted to pick it back up. I don't know, maybe 10 years after that. I took some more lessons then, and that was great. That was the best guitar. I had the first one was the worst guitar teacher, and the second one was the absolute best guitar teacher in the world. So yeah.
And when you first started playing guitar, you mentioned Clapton. Who were your other kind of influences? Who did you want to play like?
Gilmour. Without a doubt, okay. Gilmour. I didn't even know his name was that, and I didn't even know who he was, but because of the amount of exposure that I had throughout my entire childhood to Pink Floyd, to the point that every single memory of me playing, like, I don't know, doing Legos in my bedroom or something, the backing track to that is Pink Floyd, consistently. So once I'd figured out that was the guitar doing that sound, Pink Floyd was the big thing that I wanted to go for, up until the point when I started to choose my own music because of school, because I'd go to the library and they'd have that record or that record. But from the start, that was David Gilmour. And yeah, then on, again with school, I think the first bands that I was really exposed to in middle school were probably Nirvana, because it's Nirvana. Mm-hmm. And then for some reason some really heavy stuff as well. Like, I don't know, some French bands at the time were really big. Playmo, if anyone French watches that video, they will know. And that drove me into, I don't know, Korn and Marilyn Manson, and for a few years there was a lot of either grunge or new metal, because that was the title for it.
Yeah.
And the big change happened when I was, I think, 13, and we had our first band, and that's when we started actively looking for songs to play, for songs to cover. And so magazines, again, the library played a weirdly big part in my musical upbringing, because that place that we moved to had a CD section in the library, and I'd go there every week and I'd grab 3 or 4 records and I'd listen to them and I'd bring them back and do that all over again. And the first ones, at least the first ones that I remember getting from that place were Blood, Sugar, Sex Magic and Incubus. I can't remember the title of it, but yeah, so kind of kind of expanding at this point. And then with the band, looking at covering Nirvana and some Red Hot Chili Peppers and some, I don't know, Iron Maiden, because everyone was talking about the guitar players from Iron Maiden. Then it kind of went a little bit in every direction, really.
I'm already starting to sense like the Strat in your life.
Yeah, that's actually true. I never thought about it this way.
Chili Peppers, Iron Maiden, well, Nirvana not really, but pretty much everything else you mentioned there, it's Strat guys.
I never thought about it that way. That's true. That's absolutely true.
What guitar were you playing at that time when you were doing like Maiden covers and Chili Peppers and Nirvana?
It was still, so like early on, my parents didn't want me to get an electric guitar. They said, you have a guitar, it's perfectly fine, use that one. I said, yeah, but it doesn't work for that sound. And a friend of my parents, explained to them that I could also put a pickup in my classical guitar, and that this would turn it into an electric somehow. And so the first thing that we actually got was like a really bad transducer, I think, pickup. You know, the one that's just like, it looks like a nicotine patch, and you put it inside the guitar on the back or whatever. And that never worked because my parents thought only the pickup was necessary, but not the amp. Which again, you know, they'd never seen any of that stuff, so I get it. And after maybe a couple of years of convincing and good grades, obviously, got my first electric guitar from Thomann, and I was a Fender Squier Bullet Strat in black.
Very nice. You still got it?
I still got it. Yeah, it's not here. It's at the other place, and it doesn't look anything like what it used to look like. Because at some point I was pretty sure the guitar was ill of every possible disease it could have, and at that time I was a lot into experimenting with my guitar tech skills. So I stripped the guitar completely. It was covered in stickers and band-aids and stains of all kinds. So I still have it. I still have the bones of it, but it doesn't really look like a guitar anymore at this point.
Yeah. And was there ever a point like when you matured and realized that you were beyond that, and that you maybe wanted to take music more seriously, maybe even make it into a career somehow?
That took forever. I always knew music was going to be a big part of my life, but I never knew really how, because my parents were always very supportive, but again, in like, they didn't know any musicians. We didn't have any family members who were living off music or even just making music. So they were always really supportive in that, but at the same time pushing, like, you know, get a real job, which is, again, understandable. And so I never really considered music to be a potential career option for me. I was giving classes, I was in bands, but as soon as I started high school, I was kind of looking at other things as well. And I thought, yeah, I'm going to go to university. I want to travel. I want to do this and this and that. I was still playing guitar in the background, but I kind of, that was relayed as something that was in the background, definitely.
Yeah. What did you study?
English. Literature and politics for some reason. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I did 5 years, four successful ones and one less successful year of university, and I'm forever grateful that I actually got to do that, because that's what got me where I am, not only in terms of my job, but just even with the guitar. Because as soon as I started university, I wanted to move and I wanted to travel, and so I did. The first opportunity, I moved to Canada, and I was studying in Canada, and the first thing I packed with me was my first real Strat. We'll have to, okay, we can segue into that, I guess, later on. But that was Canada, and then I came back, and then I moved to England, and then I came back, and then I moved to another city in France, that's pretty much when things started to go south, and that I ended up looking at more musical options. But up to that point, it was never really on the radar. It was always, it was always there, but it was not the main objective, I would say.
Yeah, and at some point you transitioned to working for Thomann, but not in the capacity that you are now.
No. So yeah, after that less successful year, it wasn't not successful. It's just that I was working on a PhD project, and it was at the last minute the supervisor dropped me. He dropped me. So
really? Okay.
Yeah. And so at that point, I was like, hey, I literally have no plan B. I never had a plan B. I kind of always winged it. When I applied for university, I applied for med school originally, and because I came in late on the first day, I ended up with the English group, and that's how I ended up doing English at university. Like, I never really planned on that stuff, but when that happened, so that was like 3 years ago, almost 4 years ago, I was just looking at guitars to make me feel better. And that's when I ended up finding the ad for the job at Thomann. So yeah, got nothing else to lose. I don't even know if that's a real place, but why not? They sell guitars. How bad can it be? And again, good instincts. So yeah, that's 4 years ago now almost. It'll be in April, and I started working at Thomann as a call center employee for the French customers, and then going on with the international customers. So I was on the phone all day and answering emails.
Which is not as glamorous as some people might think it would be, right?
It's a really good school. It's a really good school because you end up having to talk about absolutely everything and anything that's somehow related to music. You have to do it in 2 or 3 languages to, communicate with the other teams and all of that. And I learned more about music and music equipment in those two and something odd years than any other time in my life. So it was great. But the objective was never to stay there. As soon as I started, realizing that YouTube was a thing for the company and everything, kind of dropped really early on into that.
Yeah, how did you transition to that? Did you ask the guys who did YouTube, or did they find you and ask you to do a video? How did that work?
No, it was. I think it was on my first day. I actually bumped into the head of marketing, Dominic, while getting coffee. That was my first day. So we introduced ourselves and this and that, and then the same night I was out to see the city and everything. It was my first day as an employee here, and ended up at a bar with a lot of French people, and one of them, I didn't know it at the time, was sort of second in that marketing department, and ended up talking a lot about music. And at the time I'd already done some videos, some short clips on YouTube and Facebook and all of that. So, oh, that's cool, just send me a link and everything. And that was it. That was the end of it. And then 2 weeks later, so 2 weeks inside the company, get a call to my team leader, and he says, they want to talk to you at the administration building. It's like, it doesn't sound good. Like, oh no. And then Meon, that was waiting for me downstairs at the administration. And I said, hi, my name is Meon. Do you like Periphery? Yes, I do. So do you want to meet them? Sorry, what? And I said, yeah, walk with me. And he took me inside, and that's how I met Phil, and that's how I met Dominic and the rest of that was pretty much the whole team at the time. And they were like, yeah, we have an opportunity to go and talk to Mark Holcomb from Periphery, and we've heard that you enjoyed the band. So, yeah, I really, really do. Do you think you could interview him? It's like, I don't know. All right, well then, your English is really good. Go home, prepare some questions and everything. Try and make it original. Send us that tomorrow, and if that works, you get to interview him. And that worked, and I got to interview Mark Holcomb, and that was my first video for the company. And I
pretty
was,
much a baptism of fire, right? It's putting you into the deep end straight away.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's how most things are going to work in that business, right? Because, you know, you think people know exactly what they're doing. It's like, no, I'm just winging it. As long as it works, it works. And so that was pretty much the spirit. And that's how I got into that. And because that video worked pretty well, and the comment section, the almighty comment section was fairly nice to me on that video, they were like, hey, that went well. Do you want to do another one? So yeah, sure. And that was it. First a couple of videos alone, and then along with Kris, that I got to meet like only after that. It was like just before we started filming together. We'd never seen each other otherwise, except for on YouTube. But yeah, that's how that got started.
And you and Kris have been doing videos for like what, 2 years, 3 years, maybe even longer?
Yeah, 3 years now. That was straight at the start of my my job at Thomann. So that was April, and then the interview was probably sometime during the summer or something like that, and then so that's 3 years at least that we're doing videos together now.
Yeah, that means that I must have met you also when you were pretty fresh at Thomann, because we met, I think, at the first GuitCon event, if I'm right.
Yeah.
Which was that 2017?
Yeah,
it must have been 17.
That was that.
In very darkest East Germany, in Markdorf. And
that was,
you were there to talk to YouTubers, to meet the brands, and just to hang out with the Thomann team, right? And I think Harley Benton was maybe there as an exhibitor, showing some guitars.
I think the sole reason, the main reason of us being there was at the time because we were bringing the Harley Benton guitars, and we ended up doing some pretty cool videos. But that was maybe you're right, pretty much just a few months after I started. Still had no idea what I was doing whatsoever.
Yeah, but it's like you say, I think a lot of people who do YouTube and who do that kind of job, me included, when I did my first one, it's like you go there, they throw you in at the deep end, and if it works, you get to do another one, and it kind of snowballs, you know? So that's how it worked for me as well.
That's good to hear. That's reassuring. But yeah, that first GuitCon was pretty epic. It was my first ever time out of the office. It was my first time meeting some of my favorite YouTubers as well, and meeting actual brand reps that were part of the music industry and everything. It was because it was still a little bit disconnected to me at the time. I wasn't doing marketing full time, and I had very little understanding of how things worked, because in my head I was a call center guy, you know, and it was a job like another call center job, but talking about guitars, which was way cooler inherently, but it was still that. And that was a really, really cool experience. It was
and of course meeting Henning for the first time as well, which must have been special.
Yeah. He's such a character, but he's such a helpful guy as well, and super knowledgeable on so many topics. I never really got to him about like gear or stuff like that, but every time I wanted to talk about, hey, so I've got music, or I've got this, or I've got that, so what would you recommend me doing? And I always went for his opinion, among other people, obviously, but he's so generous with his time and his knowledge that just for that, and he's a different character when you start talking to him a little bit more seriously as well.
Yeah, I mean, Henning is a different character, but actually he's still exactly the same guy as he is in front of the camera as well.
Yeah.
You just meet him sometimes seriously when the cameras are not on, and it's like, what? That wasn't a joke?
Yeah.
It's weird, but you get used to it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right, so during your time at Thomann, then you did Periphery first, but you've done a bunch of other interviews. You've done Ola England, you've done Rabia, you've done, well, who else have you done? List a few maybe, and tell me who was the most exciting.
Wow. I've done so outside of NAMM, I would say, because NAMM counts as just the one big thing, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know, meeting Nick Johnston for the first time was pretty big on me, because at the time, just after Remarkably Human had come out, and that was in 2017, I think, I was playing that record on all the time. It was constantly on, and so meeting him was a pretty big deal. Periphery was super important to me, because not only did I love them and did I love Mark Holcomb kind of specifically because his playing is just out of this world, but that was the most I think even to this day the most important one was the first one. But yeah, Nick Johnston, Larry Basilio was awesome. All the remote interview, meeting Matt Heafy was pretty insane, because Trivium, 15-year-old me just raging inside. Matt Heafy, yeah, was crazy. I don't know, every single one of them was awesome. It's really cool when you get to realize that your heroes are good people, and just
and just real people as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then I don't know. First time I met Rob Chapman. He was such a monster on YouTube already, and he just walks in and says, "Hey, I'm Rob. What's up?" And he's like, you know, he's such a big character. He's such a, you know, is all over the place, and he's doing so much stuff and everything, and you walk in there with your like 2-month YouTube experience, and you get to meet the dude, and he's just the nicest guy in the world. Every people that I got to meet through this job, I haven't had a single bad experience yet.
Yeah.
Legitimately.
It's coming.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
you will at some point, but generally in this industry, it's like, especially when you're working with people who are like-minded to you, you know, I mean, you work with people at brands like me, you work with people who play music for a living, you work with people who market themselves, you know, YouTubers, and a lot of us are very similar characters, just doing similar aspects of what is the same sort of job overall, and I think if you get on with that kind of person, then it's all good.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's also like just understanding that there might be some bad moments within that, because we're all like when we meet, it's usually because there's something happening, and we all have to create something or to sell something or to do something or whatever that is, but it's a lot of stress usually. And so like, yeah, sometimes, you know, it sparks here and there and you're like, oh my God, you know, but in the end, sit down, have a drink, and everyone's just talking about fuzz pedals and guitar pickups.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Yeah. So tell me then about events like TGU. That's a little bit different, because that was an event where you guys, Thomann, invited so many different companies and YouTubers to you. So you were the hosts. How was that?
Honestly, not so different from every other convention, because the thing is, it is us, but us as Thomann. And so I was not the event manager, I was not the project coordinator, I was not in charge of this and this or that. I was literally just here as a host. So yeah, it was I was playing local, so like I know where things were, which was definitely handy. Like if you need this or that, or someone asks you for something, I knew this time for the most things at least. So that was definitely different. But other than that, it was just playing the same game but home. So not that different, I would say.
I suppose actually that would be the case. I just think back to when we did the Hughes and Kettner Spirit Cons. Yeah. When you're working for a smaller company like that, you have to deal with absolutely everything. And the most difficult of the tasks is looking after certain YouTubers 24/7. Because some of them need more things than others, but generally they're all totally lovely people, but some of them need a bit more hand-holding than some of the others. So that was the thing for me. Sure. But I guess for you, you didn't need to do that, because Thomann has a massive team of people who all work together to make sure that these things happen in the smoothest possible way.
Yeah, it's not that big of a team, to be honest. People like playing like a organization part in those events. There might be a team of, I don't know, 10 to 15 people probably, and then there's everyone sort of rotating around that, but without having to care for so many things at the same time. The one thing that kind of resonates with that is the fact that people don't know about that always. And so like they will ask you like you're in charge, and they'll tell you, hey, this hotel room or this thing or this, that. And I'm like, dude, I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't know. I go talk to her. She knows. Or go talk to him. He probably made that happen. I don't know. But yeah.
Have you ever had any negative experiences? I'm not asking you to name names or anything, but has the shit ever hit the fan at an event or any interview or anything that you've done with Thomann where you've thought, oh God, that this is a day that I just want to forget?
Yeah, definitely. But that's kind of the same thing as what I was saying earlier. It's like there were bad moments. And the moments where like people like they're trying to do their thing and you're trying to do something different, and then it clashes and you're like, no, this is my space, this is my time, this is that, or this interview is really not going well because the guy's not in the mood. This happens. I don't think it makes for a bad relationship with these people, and I honestly forgot most of these problems. But yeah, it does happen, if everyone's in the same very enclosed space, but like not physical space but mental space, and all trying to make something happen for various different reasons, then yeah, it'll inevitably happen, I think. But it's part of it.
Yeah, exactly. You get through it. I mean, the one thing that it hasn't been a part of is the last year, because since about March 2020 we haven't been able to do events. So we missed the NAMM Show in January. There wasn't like a TGU last year. There wasn't any kind of big gear event. There wasn't a physical guitar summit here in Germany. How has that been for you? Has it made your job harder?
It's made my job different, definitely. But improvise, adapt, overcome. Can't remember who said that, but it's probably demonetized now, I think. Just the fact of saying that.
I think my channel's been blocked, so it's
it's been vastly different, but I think we've worked around that thing pretty well. I'm bummed. Mood's not been the best for some parts of last year and some parts of this year, but I guess just like everybody else, and I have absolutely zero reason to complain in my position regardless, so I'm not gonna. I think we figured it out pretty quickly. We're lucky, at least at marketing, and that most of our workload is happening online anyways, with the exception of video shooting, obviously, but again, we've proven that was possible as well. No, it was just a little bit of a rush at first, being like, okay, how are we doing this now? How are we making this happen? How are we doing that? How are we doing interviews? How are we going to do bass videos without being able to have Julia in the house? And it's some head scratching, but we figured out most of these problems and made something happen. It's different, but it's something.
Yeah, and you're getting through it. Let's move on to something that everyone wants to hear about then, and that would be gear. Now, we touched on a little bit earlier. You are a Strat man. Tell me the story about that. How did you get into that guitar? Why are you still playing it now?
Okay. Well, as you've exposed earlier today, which I didn't know before that, it's probably because of my upbringing. I don't know why. It was just when I got my first Strat, so that Squier Bullet Strat. It was black and it was cool, and it was probably similar to something that I'd seen on some sort of a Pink Floyd live cassette or DVD maybe at the time already, maybe. And some Chili Peppers records. I don't know why. I can't remember why I picked that one exactly. Price as well, to some extent.
Yeah.
But that was the first one. And it was a great experience. I have no bad memories of that guitar. And so when it was time to get another one, I didn't see any reason to take anything different.
Yeah.
So I got I'm lying. I had a guitar in between. I had a really great guitar in between. That was more of a my other granddad wanted to give me and my brother something really nice, and so I got a guitar and he got a bass, and that was a Les Paul. It was a single cut type guitar. It was an LTD. It was great as well. But the next one that I got to choose was another Strat, because the first one was so good, and that was that one. It didn't look anything like this, well, except for the color and maybe the fretboard, and that is my second guitar and first real Strat. That's a classic. Classic 60s is Squire, right? So 60s something. It was like the early 2000 range of Mexican Fender guitars.
Yeah.
And that was that. And I got it at a pawn shop for very little money. And that's the guitar that went with me anywhere, everywhere. When I moved to Canada, it was with me. When I moved to the UK, it was with me. And when I moved to Germany, it was the first to come as well. It's the guitar that I would save in a fire. Even though it's probably the least expensive guitar that I own. But that's the one
I mean,
Sorry.
It has that sentimental value to you that maybe the others don't have, right? Exactly.
No, probably not to the same extent, definitely. But that's the guitar that I refretted first. I've changed the pickups probably a dozen times on it, the bridge, the electronics, so that's my second guitar, and that was a Strat. And then I went through a bunch of different experimentations, let's say. Had a bunch of different things, some guitars that in retrospect, I don't know if I wanted them really, or I felt like I needed them for some reason, and they were I think they were instrumental as well as to me coming back to the Strat, because I went into the gent thing and the 8-string, and then kind of calmed down a little bit, but still got a Stromberg, but he only had 6 strings, before getting rid of all of that. And that was like within a period of, a few months. I was like, I need everything. I want to try everything. And I ended up selling absolutely all of it. So I sold that. And that's when I got my third Strat. That is now with you.
Yeah. I'm going to just share that for the camera right now.
Yeah.
That is this one right here.
Oh, she's pretty.
Which you picked up at the NAMM Show in
2 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, crazy. And I remember
3 years ago.
You bought this guitar and you posted on Instagram saying like, I just had an amazing day. I went out and had a beer and found this guitar in a store. And you just bought it. And I fell in love with it straight away. And I think I told you pretty quick as well.
Yeah.
If you ever sell that guitar, come to me first.
You were the first one.
I'll never sell. It's a keeper.
Yeah. I mean, it is a keeper, and that's exactly what I told you when I sold it to you. If you ever think of selling that guitar, come to me first. But that was my third Strat. Bought it at Sam Ash on Hollywood Boulevard, and it kind of came out of nowhere. It just jumped at me, and Andy was here, and it was a whole thing, and we spent 3 hours in that store, and it was glorious. And that's a phenomenal Strat. And the reason it's not with me anymore is because of my fourth guitar, which is that one, which is plugged in, which is a guitar that I ordered before I bought the Blue Strat, but received after that. It's a 62 reissue from the Fender Custom Shop. I'm not a lefty, it's a right guitar, but you know, my ceiling doesn't allow for that kind of movement. So it's a 62 reissue. I spec'd it, I ordered it myself through Thomann, and 6 months later, on Christmas Day, it arrived. And that's when all the other guitars started just gathering dust.
They just sort of became secondary to this one guitar.
Yeah.
I love the story of the pink guitar, because if I'm right, you told me that like there's a guy at Thomann part of his job is to order the custom shop Fender instruments, right? So he would spec up a bunch of Strats, and one day he just happened to say to you, what would you pick if you were going to pick this custom shop Strat? So you spec'd it up exactly how you would want it, and then spent the next few months waiting for it to arrive. And surely that was like a foregone conclusion that you would really, really bomb with it when it came, right? Yeah,
definitely.
But you never actually ordered it for you at first, right? Originally it was just going to be a Thomann guitar.
Yeah, at first I ordered it because it was my dream guitar, and when I spec'd it for that custom shop order at Thomann, I also knew that I didn't have the money to buy it because of the way that I spec'd it. But then once I put the order out and it was real, it was going to be built, I didn't really have a choice anymore. I had to buy that guitar because it was the perfect guitar. And so during that 6 month wait period, I actually placed the order to book that guitar so that it would be mine when it got there.
Yeah.
And started selling everything
else.
And saving everything to be able to afford it when it arrived. And I did, and I absolutely do not regret that decision. So yeah.
That's actually the reason that I've never ordered a custom guitar for myself, and that's because I always feel like, well, firstly, if I were to spec a custom guitar, it would be a bog standard Tele pretty much. But also, if I was to spec a custom guitar, it would be super expensive. But then what happens if you get it out the box and it's on paper the perfect guitar, but you just don't bond with it somehow? That feeling of disappointment just must be so crushing.
That was part of the thought process during that waiting period, because I had the exact same fear going into it, and then just like took me a moment to realize that even if I didn't bond with it, it would still be a fantastic guitar, and that I would have absolutely no problem whatsoever reselling because it's got Fender on the headstock.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of it as well, just to get that these big brands and these guitars that kind of at least hold value, if not gain value, is that it's an investment that you're fairly sure you're not going to lose that much money on, even if it's not love at first sight. And I was definitely lucky that it was, but if it had not been, then I think I would have been fine.
Yeah.
I hope I would have been fine.
And you went through the honeymoon process with it. Are you still 100% as happy with it? Do you ever go through like time periods where you kind of fall out of love with it and then have to get yourself back in with it and stuff?
Yeah, definitely. That just happened.
Oh, really?
Like literally as of... I haven't touched it for quite a while, because it kind of turned into just a regular Strat. I don't know why. I think it's just the whole context that was a little bit too heavy on me, like the second lockdown, and just the first one I was incredibly inspired for some reason, and the second one did hit me a little bit harder, along with winter and all of that stuff. So it's been a bit hard, and that guitar I think suffered from it as well, because everything felt a little bit stale to me. Yeah. Whether it was my guitar or my amp or my pedals, I wasn't really inspired by anything. My playing suffered from it as well. Like the last videos at Thomann, it's just bad. because I'm not feeling it. And only for like a few days of actively talking about that and trying to consciously sort of rectify the situation, I'm starting to feel like I'm happy again with it and with my stuff. But it went through a bit of a weird process, and now it's sporting 12 to 56 gauge strings, and that was part of it for some reason. I needed to have that.
12 to 56s, okay.
Yeah.
That's heavy.
Yeah. I'm E flat though. I'm half a step down, so it barely counts.
But you also love like a really high action as well, don't you?
Yeah, it's really high. I like a bit of a fight. I think it makes the guitar sound better, and most importantly, it makes the Strat sound better. That if you have rather high output pickups and a low action, it's not gonna work for that guitar. Like it's gonna work for, maybe a Les Paul or maybe a more modern kind of guitar. I think the Strat, to get the best sound out of it, you need to have those thick strings and that high action and pickups that are sunk below the pick guard, and to get the most out of that. And I don't know, and that kind of grew on me. I was never big on like super low action either. It never really caught with me, but it's kind of got more extreme as we went. But I'm falling in love again, so that's what matters.
Do you ever feel like you miss other guitars? I mean, obviously you get to see Kris, who's a huge Tele and Les Paul fan, and I know that you just literally a couple of weeks ago got a new toy. Say that. Yeah, go on then, show us.
Okay, yeah. This is exactly the result of being with Kris for 3 years. I got my first Tele. It's not a Fender guitar. I have to disclose that up front. It's a Partscaster with a Fender sticker on it. It's an Italian-made guitar. I forgot the name of the luthier because I bought it secondhand on eBay. That was just like instant gas purchase. That I need a Tele, this one sold, and that's exactly how that happens. And so I got this one off of eBay. It's a great Partscaster, and that is Kris's fault. But
he's to blame for that, for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. And just to wrap it up, because that's the last one you see on the picture, is an Epiphone Les Paul. It's a custom 55. It was a limited edition that Epiphone did a few years back, and we got one back, like a B stock. A customer sent one back, the last one that was in stock at Thomann, because he didn't like it, and I just loved the looks of it, so I got it. The sound wasn't great. They are Gibson P90s, but the electronics were kind of killing the whole thing. So I did spend some more money on it, put a Bixby on there, modded the electronics quite heavily. As you can see, my switch is in a very unorthodox position.
Yeah.
But that's the Strat. That's the Strat guy talking in me. That's the only reason why this is here, is because when I want to switch anything, I go like that. But yeah. And weirdly enough, these are my only 4 electric guitars at the moment.
Do you ever have problems transitioning between the Strat, the Les Paul, and now the Tele? Is that a problem?
Not really. If I want to do anything, I'll grab the Strat, because that's my guitar. And that's the guitar I know I can take to this place, or this place, or this place. So if I only had to pick one, it would be one of the Strats. The other 2 are just because there were moments in my life where I just could, so I did, and I'm using them. I'm playing with them less than other guitars, less than this one. Let's be honest, and they're here for specific things. I want to play slide on P90s and fool around with the Bixby a little bit. And I wanted to have a Tele bridge pickup into a Tele to have that sound as well, because I'm doing a bit more recording than I used to, and now I feel like I have a bit of everything, and no, it's been all right. They're all similar necks as well. Like they're not too big, either one of them. the different shapes, but it's not like too much of a stretch on the hand, so it's fine.
Yeah. So what's the rest of the rig that you're using at the moment? I've seen a bunch of different pedalboard iterations you've had over the years. You're pretty settled with the amp though, right?
Yeah. The amp is, I'm not going to lift it. It's right here, right there. It's beautiful. It's a custom-made amp from a friend of mine in Bamberg, Germany. His name is Pavel. His company is called Pudel Engineering. And I told him, hey, I want a 2-rock or a Dumble, and I can't buy any of them. Can you make me one? And then he was like, yeah, sure, I can do that. And I asked him, yeah, but I also like Marshall mid-range, and I like Marshall majors and all that stuff. So yeah, sure, I can, the mix and match and see what works. And so he built me that amp, which is called Gravity Clean, because of obvious gravity reasons of the John Mayer kind. And it's essentially a 2-rock classic reverb circuit, but he created a sort of circuit that allows you to swap between different capacitance values on the mid-range pot. So you have a mid-range switch selector that allows you to navigate different ranges, and then the mids knob that allows you to dial in that mid-range range. And he made exactly what I asked him to make, and it's just the most glorious amp in the world. So that's been pretty constant. I have to mention as well the Rev D20, because that's been a big part of recording the first EP or just doing any video at Thomann is that amp. Yep. I've got one here that I have on loan from Thomann because of the live stream situations, and we always said like, okay, if there's any chance of doing this or that, we want you to have a direct out, and I can't crank my amp too loud in the apartment and mic it up, it wouldn't work. So I do have the D20. I did track a lot of music with it and I love it. And the board, the rabbit hole, which looks like that right now, but will probably look completely different in a week, maybe a couple of days. We'll see. It looks like that. That is the current iteration of it.
It's got bigger.
Yeah. It's got bigger. Yeah. I don't know why. I think it's because of the Boss ones. I realized recently that I could shop on eBay in Japan and not pay import taxes on it. So I started to go crazy and buy a bunch of vintage Boss pedals. I've got like it's here. It's temporarily off the board, but that's a Japanese SD1, reflection.
Yeah.
SD1 overdrive. It's phenomenal. And right now it looks like it, and I'm really happy with that. It didn't look like it this morning even, but I had a really long call with Dan from Dan Drive Pedals during lunch. Talked about life and fuzzes, and while we were talking, I was telling him that my fuzz was dysfunctional for this and that, and I don't know, for some reason, because he was on the phone and he's the fuzz guru, my fuzz started working again, so now it's back on the board. Okay. So just to run, if I can, do you want me to run you through it, or is it just
why not? Before you do that though, I see one very specific pedal which I've always seen you with, but is no longer there, and it's one which I also have and I wanted to talk about. That's this one, the Dispatch Master. What happened to that? Because that is a great pedal. There you go.
It left the board, I think, last week, because I was experimenting with that one, which I made. It's a tape delay, and because I've got the Strymon here for reverb, I cleared out the space, but otherwise it's an always on. This is my Desert Island pedal. Yeah. This is glorious and I love it.
Yeah.
So that explains that.
Yeah, okay, I'm happy now. I was scared for a second. I thought you'd lost your wits, but there we go.
No, we're good.
Tell me about the board.
So, this is a rock board, something, and right now I'm rocking This, which is a fuzz face type of pedal that I made. It's one of the first pedals that I assembled. And it's pretty straightforward silicon fuzz face, which I modified but can't remember how. I opened it up earlier because Dan wanted to know which transistors I had in there. And that's when I saw that the diode was different as well as the pots. But silicon fuzz face. Then a Boss Super Octave OC3, Ottawa AW2. These two were that eBay realization. They were the results of that mostly. Then I've got this, which is a clone, and that's made by 68 Pedals. He's a really great dude. Based in China, and he hand makes a few clones of pedals, including this one, and it's a 1-to-1 reproduction of the real thing, and that's the closest thing I've ever heard to a real clone, along with the Seriatone one.
Okay.
But the only difference is Seriatone is in Malaysia, I think, or something like that. And this guy's in China, but he's a great dude, and that's a phenomenal clone. Then this one, which is another kit, it's a Bluesbreaker Mark 1.
Made by you?
Made by a friend with whom I make the other pedals. But that one I didn't touch because he made it for my birthday. But he's the guy Julian, whom I make the pedals with. So yeah, great Bluesbreaker pedal. And that's the Ultraphonics by Vertex. That's been moving around a little bit, but for some reason hasn't left the board since I bought it. It's just great. And I was trying to, do more kits and do more pedals and everything and more gain stages and all that. But regardless of what I was doing, this one was always on. So I guess, that's for a good reason.
Yeah.
Then that last one, which I was talking about, which is a tape delay. Because at first I don't know why I told that it was like an Echo Rec. Copy, clone, whatever. It's not. It's a Ballypuck. It's like an EP kind of a thing. But that's the last one I made, and then the Strymon Flint for verb and trem. Yeah. Otherwise, that's a buffer. That's a tuner, and behind it is power.
No looper.
No looper. No, I went through different. Hey, I need a looper phases. I don't unless I really start gigging heavily. A looper is wasted on me because the only thing that is not always on is the fuzz or the clone, and so a looper is just a glorified ABY box for me. I've got the buffer. I don't have a lot of signal loss, and what signal loss I have, I think, is inherent to having that many pedals, and I kind of like the sound of it. So I'm happy with it like that. I guess I'll put a switcher on if I start gigging again, because that's just convenient. But otherwise, no, I'm good.
Well, to be honest, I meant a TC Ditto looper, that kind of looper, but I like your answer about loop switching as well.
Now, and that's because of the job. I would have understood that as the looper any other time up until 2 years ago, when we started going way deep in the tone pedalboard videos and everything. For now, like from that point on, everything is just a switcher, looper, monster of a pedalboard for me. So I do have a looper. It's a Nux SOS looper. Super small, super affordable, but true bypass, which is great. And it's sitting in the bedroom, I think. I don't know. I use it sometimes, but it's just not on the board for now. Again, this will probably be completely different in a week, so.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So here's an interesting thing for me about your board. Like you see a lot of people at the moment and their boards are full of boutique pedals. And I think maybe previously yours was more full of them. But it's
Yeah.
really interesting for me to see that you've got a bunch of Boss pedals appearing. Okay, they might be Japanese, but they're still Boss pedals.
They're still Boss,
you know,
yeah.
the killer affordable mass-produced pedal and
Yeah.
stuff that you've made yourself. And I think that's a really awesome and unique board that you're building there.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it did take a while to put these pedals on the board because for the longest time I wanted to reconcile my personal board with the thing that I bring into Thomann for like convenient reasons, because it's just the board that I know, it's tones that I know, and I was kind of tired of jumping into the video room and having like a stranger's pedal board and having to sound good on that. I wasn't too confident about it, but it took me a while to realize that that was a mistake and that chasing gear because of gear wasn't working for me. I had so many variations of overdrive pedals and this and this and that on my board. And I was really happy with them. They sound great. They're all really, really good pedals. Like the JHS double barrel stayed there for 2 years. So did the Fuzzbender, the Keeley Fuzzbender. You know, sort of high-end stuff. And I just ended up realizing that every time I plug in my own things or like some more affordable stuff or whatever, I felt like it was more me than playing through these expensive pedals. And yeah, I just liked the sound. But it was hard telling myself that, okay, this works for me, so I don't need the other things. So I can sell the other things and just keep what I'm using, which is not a guitar player's mindset.
Yeah. How come it was never a problem for you and Kris to have guitars that are not like stock guitars that people that can buy, or for you with your board? Why is it okay that on Thomann videos you can play homemade pedals or copies? I mean, I understand that that's what you play and stuff, but would it not make more sense for you to only play stuff that people can buy at the store, like play a Harley Benton Strat copy, Harley Benton pedals and other kind of Boss pedals that you can actually buy as opposed to vintage ones, for example?
Yeah, for the most part we do. I don't play my board on the Thomann channel. And if I do, I replace what's on there that is not available with something that is. At least for the pedal part of it. The amps are studio amps and we sell them. The guitars though, I mean, to some extent we sell anything the custom shop makes, so either my Strat or Tele or Kris's Tele are valid in that respect. It's just the last line for us, like the last bit of comfort zone that we have. Because we're giving up on Kris's rig is so much different from what's happening at Thomann. My rig is so much different, and we do have to make a lot of concessions on that, but still sound good, because that's the whole point of that channel, is to have a great sound. And the guitars are just like the last that last line of defense, because we can play our guitars, we're already comfortable with that, and we know that whatever we putting our guitars into is just going to sound its best, because our guitars are our guitars. But yeah, no, I get it. We don't play that on the Thomann channel.
What about Harley Benton as a brand? I remember when I interviewed Kris, I asked him, what's your honest opinion on it? Might as well ask yours as well. What do you think of that brand?
I really like it. I like it as I like the idea of Harley Benton guitars, because to me, having that many options at that price point is just, it's such a great time to start guitar right now. Because if you want to play a Jazzmaster or an offset type of guitar, you will find offset guitars for $100. If you want to play a single cut or a double cut or a ST type or a T type or whatever, you will find good, reliable instruments at a 10th, a 20th, a 30th of the price of the real thing. And that's great, because not everyone can afford to buy the real thing. So for that, I really love I really love the brand, and most of the products that we've had in the studio have been sounding absolutely decent to great. But then again, it's an affordable brand of guitar, so you've got some bad apples, so you've got some instruments that are obviously not the best, but that's what you should expect if you buy a guitar that's worth €100. So I like what Harley Benton is doing. I like the direction they're taking as well, with bringing progressively more original kind of stuff and more original finishes, a little bit less conventional. So no, I really dig it. I don't use it. I do use it actually. I just saw that in the camera. I forgot that I had this one. That's an acoustic guitar, and that's a Harley Benton. Because
Shell Pig Cutaway Dread.
Yeah, in fairness, that happened before my Strat happened, and that's my girlfriend's guitar, and she picked the color. I just tried to match it afterwards.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I do have a Harley Benton, and it's a great guitar, and it sounds great, and I've gigged with that guitar. I've literally played gigs with that guitar, and so yeah, if you want to try something new, something different, and you don't want to spend a whole lot of money on it, there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, the brand has an interesting reputation, and that's also because it's been featured by so many YouTubers, kind of, let's call them paid YouTubers. It's been featured by so many normal people, and it has this really kind of unique place in the market because it's a brand that's just sort of appeared over the last few years. It's so cheap.
Yeah.
But by the same token, it's like you say, for a 20th or a 30th of the price of an American-made instrument, a Fender or a Gibson or whatever, you can get ballpark sounds and ballpark feel. And so in that sense, I agree with you. I think it's never been a better time to be a guitar player, someone starting out. What a choice those kids have.
Yeah, definitely. And just for that, and then again, you have people like Kris who play expensive guitars and amps and pedals and everything, who just going to flash completely on a Harley Benton Silver Sparkle Super Strat guitar and just buy them because it's a great guitar, and it is a great guitar, and he hasn't swapped anything on it yet. I think he plans to, but he's had the guitar for 2 years. Anyone would. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. I also like the fact that Harley Benton is now, like, it's completely independent from us. I know in people's mind it's not. It's like Harley Benton is Thomann, and to some extent I get it because it was born as a house brand and we're still exclusive retailers, so I understand that mindset. But Kris and I have nothing to do with the decisions made by the brand or anything. Thomann is it's their own thing at this point, and that kind of independence is really driving their social media and the website and all the videos they're putting out. I don't know, I think I don't know how to finish that thought.
It's a tricky one. I understand I'm putting you on the spot as well, asking you to talk about that Thomann House brand, but still. It's
kind of hard to phrase, that's the thing, because I really want people to understand that when we try things in the studio, Kris and I, we won't play anything that we don't like at all. And whatever Harley Benton product we've had in the studio worked at the same level as the Fender guitars that we've opened, the Gibson guitars that we've opened, the whatever guitars that we've opened. So no, I think they're great instruments. Even more so if you say they're great for the money, which is its own thing, obviously. Yeah. And I don't know. I like it, but I'm not too involved with it, I guess, is the thing.
Yeah. No, I respect that. Thank you for being honest with me there.
Of course.
Let's move to the opposite end of the spectrum. What is the single greatest piece of gear that you've ever played, either at Thomann or at the NAMM Show or wherever else you've been? Apart from that guitar there, what's the single greatest piece of gear that you've ever played?
I don't know, man. I really love vintage guitars, obviously, but I'm not big on all of them. I won't praise vintage guitars right now because I've had as many bad ones as I've had good ones. Not had purchased, but I've played or I've seen or I've heard. But in that category still, I would probably put two guitars that I've played on the exact same day. And that were a 59 hardtail Strat at the Copenhagen Guitar Show last year. It was October 2019.
Is that when you went to catch a John Mayer gig at the same time or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a good weekend. But 59 hardtail Strat, that was out of this world. It's sitting right next to another vintage Strat that really didn't really have anything special. But that's kind of the point. But that one was so loud. It was incredible. Loud in a good way, acoustically, and just pickups were like the weakest pickups ever, but put them through a right amp and that's the magic. But that one and a guitar company from Denmark that were here on that day and that I discovered on that day, Baum Guitars. And they make a Conker 59 sort of offset semi-hollow gold foil pickup that was just mind-blowing. I've played it through a 2-rock with a bunch of really expensive pedals as well, so I'm sure that was helping. But that pedal was phenomenal. That guitar, was phenomenal.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. You're going to have to send me a link and I'm going to put it down there so the other guys watching this can check that out as well, because that sounds pretty damn cool.
Definitely, they're really great. I'm yet to put my hands on one again. I think they're releasing a new series of like Korean, because everything was handmade in Denmark. Yeah. But they're releasing a limited series of Korean-made versions of their guitars that are going to be like a quarter or a fifth of the price, and I'm gonna try to jump on that as well. just you know.
Why not? Does Thomann sell those guitars?
No, they don't. Oh. But up till now, they're really big on social media because of how crazy good their guitars are, but they don't make that many of them. I think they probably sell a few dozens a year or something like that, but they just, you know why. You know why it takes so long to make those guitars.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Just touching on something that we just mentioned, you went to Copenhagen and tested those guitars because you went to Copenhagen to see John Mayer.
Yes.
Why are you such a big John Mayer fan? I mean, when I first met you, I thought you were like a progressive metal sort of a dude. You kind of explained that was a bit of a phase, but it's such a contrast in a musical sense and also in a guitar playing sense. Okay.
I understand. I've done a lot of introspection since that day. So, why am I such a big John Mayer fan? Because I only found this out very recently. As I was telling you earlier, one of my first records, my first burned CDs were the Unplugged Eric Clapton thing and Come Away With Me by Norah Jones. Mm-hmm. And I think I really struggled to see the impact that these records had on my life since, because I was kind of all over the place musically. But the more I've been writing music and the more I've been recording music, the more I realized that everything that I love about harmonies and chord progressions and all that was in there. And I've been trying to find myself in between that. And in the process of looking in between Clapton and Clapton's guitar, blues guitar playing, and sort of Norah Jones songwriting and more of a blues R&B kind of vibe, I was looking for myself and I kind of found John Mayer in that window. And since then, it's like, I don't think out of my adult life, outside of Guillaume and a few others, out of my adult life, no guitar players has had more influence on me than John Mayer has. And I still think that he's underestimated for the skills that because he's famous for certain things, but I don't think these are all the right things and the things that make up for his genius as a guitar player and as a songwriter. I'm going to stop now because otherwise it's going to take forever. So that's why I'm such a big fan of John Mayer. To me, he reconciles everything that I love about music from the time that I figured out what music was. And about that transition, it took some time as well. But I realized that I was my appreciation skills were vastly different from my expression skills, and so I could appreciate a lot of metal, and I'm still all about Gojira, and I'm still all about prog, and I listen to it maybe more often than anything else, and that for the past few years, but I'm not good at expressing myself through that music. I've tried in many different kind of ways, but it's just not the way that I can say what I want to say. And that was hard to realize, but when I finally realized that, it was like the biggest relief. And that happened while I was at Thomann. And that's why everyone was kind of confused by that, because they kind of hired me as the metal guy. And while that was happening, I was like, yeah, I love metal. I really, really do. And I'll talk to any metalhead about anything. But if I have to play something and try and say something with that, I'm not good at writing metal or making metal. And that's kind of what happened, and that's where that transition was. And doing that, my guitar playing really fell back onto my earlier influences and things like that. That was very confusing. It was very confusing for me as well, and it took some time for me to figure it out. But I think I understood that process at this point.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that answer. It makes a lot of sense, and that also gives me a better understanding of your own solo musical material. And you've recorded and put out quite a lot of music since, I think, the lockdown started, and it is much more stylistically influenced by people like John Mayer, I would have to say. I mean, you certainly don't hear Gojira and bands like that in the EP, do you?
I still need to figure out how to blend both now. But first off, thank you, and second, every time I was writing anything, whether it was musical on the guitar or thinking of a chord progression or starting writing lyrics, it was always going in that direction. And I think for the longest time I was trying to fight that or to adapt it to a style that wasn't coming naturally to me. And when I finally discovered that, I took all of my text and they had a whole new sense to them, since I could play them on a G chord and be happy with that. And that's pretty much what I did. My songs are, to some exception, like all 4 or 5 chords, and then there's going to be a bridge where I can have some fun and have some weird shapes in there, and then do a little bit of a lead part and play some slide. But it's serving something else that's based around an E, a G, and an A chord, and I'm happy with that. So that kind of liberating process allowed me to find these texts and that music that I'd been sitting on for so long, and finally record it in a way that made sense to me and release it. So that was all linked. That was a very good transition, sir.
Can you see yourself going full time with the creative musical output in the future, if it ever gets that big?
I could see myself doing it, but I won't. I didn't start releasing the music so that I would get anywhere, higher. It was all about getting that out of my system so I could start making more stuff, because the songs that I released, although the arrangements were sort of recent, the songs in themselves were anywhere in between 1 and 5 or 6 years old. And so I just wanted to get this out of my system to start and work on other things, and I'll keep releasing music because I feel like I need to release that music to go on to something else, but I don't have any expectations as to it. Like, it took me a year to check the revenue system in what's that platform? DistroKid. because that's what I went through to release the music for the most part, and I made $6.50 something over the course of the first 6 months of that release.
It's a start.
But
it's a start.
It's a start, yeah, for sure. But the thing is, it really comforted me in my vision of it. I'm not doing it for any other reason than the fact that I have to release that music, and if it's not going anywhere, then it's not going anywhere, and I'm okay with that. I'll keep making music, and I still have a job. I can still play guitar. I'm not complaining at all. But if it were to happen, I think I would definitely do it, just to say that I've done it. I've tried. Yeah,
sure. One day supporting John Mayer or something like that. That would be a dream come true, wouldn't it?
Don't do that. Don't give me hope.
Well, listen, I've kept you almost 90 minutes. I hope there are still people watching this. It's been a long interview. I have so many questions that I'd written down, so we'll probably have to do another chat at some point in the future, because there are many things to ask. There are many more things that I would like to know, and I think that the people watching this video would like to know. But let's just finish it by saying you don't have a YouTube channel of your own. Number one, why? And number two, where can the people watching this go to hear your music and to check out the latest stuff that you're doing?
I don't have a YouTube channel because I don't have the patience for it. For me, YouTube is a job. It's something that I do to make money, and I'm doing it for the Thomann channel. I recently started doing it for a few other channels in different languages, and it's not something that I want to do because I need to do it. I don't really care that people listen to what I have to say about anything. I'm still surprised that many people do, to be honest. And I don't have the patience to put, like when I see Kris, the amount of time he spends working on that.
Yeah.
I'm the kind of person who's going to spend that amount of time noodling on my guitar while watching Netflix. And I'm okay with it, and I'm fine with that. I work enough. So yeah, that's why no YouTube. It's my job, and I do it for people and companies, and I'm really happy with that. I wouldn't want to do it anymore when I come home. And where people can find me, my Instagram. My Instagram would be perfect, because that's then in the link in bio. Oh my god. The famous link in bio is all my music on everything. So if you look for me on Deezer, or on, why did I start with Deezer? Spotify, Apple Music, Napster, I think even. I'm on there.
MySpace,
yeah, definitely. I'm on Instagram Music. If you want to put my music on your stories, you can. But yeah, no, Instagram, and then everything's in there.
All right, there we go. So, Guillaume, thank you so much for taking the time today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Can't wait to actually meet you again in person when that's going to be possible. Yes. Who knows when. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please go to Guillaume's socials. Check him out if you haven't already. Of course, go and watch him on Thomann. But of course, if you're watching this channel, you'll know the channel. I've been Rich for Rich Words Music, and I shall see you in the next video. Bye for now.
Bye, guys. Thanks, Rich.